got a great panel of 32 BJ members, some current, some retired, who are going to talk to us about the history of the Justice for Janitors movement. And we're going to get ready to go and bargain a contract for 1,100 cleaners all across this city who clean almost every single office building all across Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. You ready for that? First, we're going to start on a slightly somber note by remembering a sister who has passed, Cynthia Kessler. This is the first, I think, big union event we've had since we lost Cynthia at a union event in Atlantic City in April. For anyone who did not know Cynthia, she was a longtime member of 32 BJ, a shop steward at PPG Plaza for the last 15 years, would have been right now a 4-time member of the bargaining committee for the Janitors master contract across Pittsburgh. If she were here today, she'd be telling us, get ready for this fight, because every single time we go to the bargaining table is hard. This time's gonna be harder than ever. She'd also probably be complaining about the food a little bit. I'm gonna open just with a little bit of context, and then we're gonna go right into our first video clip. But the format of this event is there's gonna be some historical archive footage of the 1985 Pittsburgh Lockout, the 1990 March in Los Angeles that sort of catapulted the Justice for Janitors movement onto the national stage. And we want to learn from these events how workers of the past, and actually the not very distant past, dealt with changes in the commercial office industry, dealt with changes in the economy by getting ready to rise up and fight back and make sure that they kept good jobs and rebuilt the labor movement at the same time. We're doing that in the context of 70,000 32 BJ members all up and down the East Coast, heading to the bargaining table. You can see on the screen behind me all of the various markets that are going to the bargaining table. But if there's a large office building anywhere in a big city in the Northeast, chances are it's cleaned by a 32 BJ member. And every single one of those members is going to the bargaining table this fall, starting here in Pittsburgh, then in Philadelphia, then in DC, then in New York, then in Boston, then in Miami, to demand that we get the share of the profits that we're entitled to, right? That our wages go up, that our benefits are protected, that our retirement security is improved, that the sacrifices that you all made during COVID, showing up every single day to keep the buildings operating and running, even when it was dangerous, are repaid. Yes. Right? And we know there's a lot at stake. A downtown Pittsburgh cleaner now makes almost $29 an hour if you put the entire package together. That's an almost $20 an hour wage, plus family health insurance, plus retirement security, our legal benefits, paid time off, what every worker in this society deserves. But we're going to the bargaining table at the most difficult time for this industry that we have seen in decades. Maybe the most difficult time that we have seen since the 1985 lockout that we're going to learn about in a minute. Pittsburgh office vacancies reached record high. 23% of the office space in downtown Pittsburgh is vacant. Office vacancies continue to climb in every city across America. Occupancy, right, meaning the number of people actually showing up for work every day in their offices, is hovering about 50% all across America. Does that mean we can accept less? No. Does that mean we gotta be prepared to fight harder? Absolutely. Does that mean we gotta be prepared to be more creative about our strategies and our approach? Absolutely. That's what today is about. We're not gonna allow downturns, probably a temporary downturn, in the state of the commercial office market to allow these building owners to take a single dime out of our wages, to not continue to invest in our health benefits, to not continue to invest in our pensions and our retirement security. Are you with me? Yes. So that's what today is about. We got to kick off this bargaining cycle by understanding what workers have been through in the past so that we can learn from those lessons and build on them into the future. So the first video that we're going to show starts, here in Pittsburgh, the actual birthplace of the Justice for Janitors movement.
The Building Service Employees International Union was founded in 1921 by flat janitors in Chicago to organize some of the nation's most exploited workers. The union grew and its members won living wages, benefits, and respect. In recent decades, however, these gains were lost. Janitors nationwide have had to stand together to reorganize their industry. In the 1970s, the structure of the building service industry began to change.
Building owners were not just people that lived in the local town, but they were national companies. And a handful of big building owners owned buildings all over the country.
Building owners, once the direct employers of janitors, cut costs and ducked responsibility by contracting work out to cleaning companies. Cleaning contractors, in turn, transformed full-time union jobs into part-time ones, cut health care and benefits, and spread their reach into non-union suburbs. Between 1964 and 1984, union density in the building service industry fell from 40 to 10%. In some cities, wages dropped by as much as 50%. As contractors consolidated, union locals found themselves isolated, and janitors themselves worked alone for hours on end. Undocumented immigrants feared not only losing their jobs, but also deportation if they spoke out about working conditions. Rosa Ayala knew how this isolation affected her fellow workers.
Y yo miraba esa belleza de edificios y decía, ¿cómo van a hacer para concientizar a esa gente si no se miran?
In 1985, janitors at Mellon Bank in Pittsburgh refused to accept yet another cut in wages. Building managers locked them out of their jobs through the long winter. The fight was a wake-up call that the union would have to reorganize the building service industry. Because cleaning contractors and their employees could be replaced every 30 days, holding elections under the National Labor Relations Act would be ineffective. New organizing strategies were needed. The Justice for Janitors campaign was born. A national organizing campaign with the goal of helping workers lift themselves and their families out of poverty. Over the next 5 years, 35,000 building service workers were unionized.
City after city, we built coalitions with clergy, with community groups, with politicians.
If Dr. King and Cesar Chavez were alive today, they would be marching. We march in their spirit to keep their dreams alive.
Like the farm workers 30 years before, Justice for Janitors brought national attention to their cause.
The Service Employees Justice for Janitors campaign was born in Pittsburgh. Confronted with demands to give back 25% of their pay and give up their health insurance, a small band of building cleaners took on a downtown business community led by Mellon Bank. Most of them had been on their jobs over 20 years, doing the dirty work of our society. Their union contract was their only security in life, and they chose to defend it. While 3 of them died of heart attacks in the bitter cold, the heart of a city warmed.
Okay, there were a couple of things that were different about the strike here in Pittsburgh. One, this seemed to be a classic David and Goliath situation. You had a large group of very wealthy building owners and managers, the Building and Office Association of Pittsburgh, fighting against people who were essentially grandfathers, grandmothers, other people who were younger but who weren't earning all that much money.
When it was over, there were no givebacks in Pittsburgh. A once proud local union had been revived. And the rallying cry, Justice for Janitors, started to spread.
Okay, so let's bring the panel up. We got our moderator, Jeff Waddell, who's a janitor at the University of Pittsburgh. Retired 32BJ member and participant in the 1985 lockout, Rich Johnston. Lana Adams, who's a cleaner at the Civic Building. Tommy McGannon, who's a cleaner at Station Square. And Paul Griffin, who's a cleaner at PNC Bank. Jeff, take it away.
Good afternoon, good morning, and thanks for coming out. Oh my goodness, when I was afforded this opportunity to speak in front of my fellow fighters in solidarity that we're here together in, and to see what has come before us and see what we have to be today to get through to tomorrow. I was excited because I have Rich here today that experienced the fight in '85. And he's going to, let's give him a hand. Let's give Rich a hand. That's right. Talking about someone that started in the journey and gave it all and gave a lot of his coworkers. The story he'll tell you will really, I guess, impress you, compel you, and very impactful to what we're getting ready to in today. So Rich, let us take a moment here and just first and foremost introduce yourself and let's hear your story.
Before I introduce myself, a T-shirt like this is in the National Museum of American History.
All right.
I'm Rich Johnston. I was a member of the union for like 29 years. So we'll get to the fight we had in 1985. So in 1985, the contractors decided to lock out the workers. What they did, they started as a rolling strike, a rolling lockout, meaning they picked certain buildings and they locked them out. However, the other buildings that were not locked out yet, we went down and supported them. We walked the picket line with them. And then it came, our turn. We was locked out. And I worked at USX, the steel building at that time. And at that time, the steel building was an independent building, meaning they didn't belong to the association, that OBAP, Owners Buildings, Pittsburgh Association. We called them organized bastards against people. Wow. That's exactly what they were, right? But the thing that hits me is that how we all stuck together with one fight, right? So after that, we settled the contract. At first they wanted us to take a $3 pay cut, right? We said no, right? And then the buildings, we finally agreed to a contract. And we all went back to work. Well, Mellon Bank decided that they was going to fire the union contractor and hire a non-union contractor, right? So it literally, we went over to the Mellon Bank building every day to protest. And then we was told by the labor board, you can't do that anymore. It's a secondary boycott, right? So we, as ACIU Local 29, we took him to court. It took 18 months to get them back. However, the labor board found that Mellon Bank was co-employer. They were sued, $277,000 they had to pay back pay to the members, right? The idea, it took 18 months. It wasn't just the building. When we went back, we didn't give up. We did not give up. We fought the fight, okay?
Oh, that's outstanding. Give him a hand, please. In Richard's story, and he's being very modest, because anyone that knows about the story of what he went through, there was the winter time, people died, people sick, but they kept fighting. If you heard his words, we came together and we kept fighting. And one of the beautiful things I've read from my notes that they supplied me with was the mayor was involved. Our city officials are so important to the message of the union. And Rich, 40 years now. It's been 40 years for this epic struggle.
Yeah.
Is it surprising you right now how important it is to think about that or relive it?
What surprises me is that, I'm going to be really freaking honest.
I don't hurt nobody with that. Strictly honest. Okay.
How member involvement has declined so much. It's like, my old saying used to be, if you want to win, you have to own it. Right?
Come on.
So yeah, like Jeff was saying, Mayor Kelly Jury, he was so embarrassed about seeing.
Come on.
Breaks me up, man. He was so embarrassed by seeing janitors on the street, day and night. It was bitter cold, So he sat down and he got us back together, back into the buildings, But yeah, it was like, it was really, really cold, But, we had the fire buckets, and good thing about the fire department did not come out and make us put them out. It was peaceful. The police didn't make us put them out. But we stood our ground, so.
That's outstanding. Another fact that I found out about the struggle was that the mayor, he got involved. He got him back in the building. Opportunity to make money and feed your family, yes. But they froze their income for 3 years. 3 years. Could you imagine? I did a contract fight approximately 4 years ago, going on 4 years. And we settled, we were all excited, yes. Best contract Pitt University's had, we're all excited. Then 2 weeks later, inflation hit. Gas goes up. Everything. So why is this young man, and I say young because, I'm getting to it myself, so important to the fight? Because he keeps saying, we stayed at it. We stayed together. We got to understand what the difference will be, not only for then, but for the future. And you're going to hear a lot of those stories today. Sticking together, fighting, one voice. Come on, say it again, please.
We fight. We win. When we fight, we win. We win.
Thank you, Rich. And there's more
One
to
more
come.
thing, after the lockout, we went back. I learned a lot during that time. So I decided to really get involved. And that's when I ran for a shop steward. Yeah.
Shop steward, come on. Shop stewards in the house. Well, at this time, I want to close it off because we're getting ready to see some emotional backing to what we stand for. Some fighting. I was young, my mom worked for Nabisco, and she had to get into the fights at a young age. She was in her 30s. She went to work every day, and she was kind of outspoken individual. They said, you'd be a good person to get into this fight. Well, she started off, the conditions were bad. Works was bad. This was back in the 70s and 80s. And then over the period of years, because the condition didn't change fast enough, my mom went blind. But the thing about it is, she tells me to this day, it's probably one of the best things that God ever blessed her with, because she had a bigger vision and a bigger sight. Because when she went blind, now she getting the Bisco straightened out, got a union, but then the Blind Guild Association took on a new leader. That's why it's important for us to come together and carry this man through. You see the emotion. Let's do our part. Because when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win.
So, before we're going to move into a couple clips from Los Angeles. which I'm going to give you a warning, are a little bit difficult to watch. There's some scenes of pretty intense police brutality. So if that's hard for you to watch, you might want to take a minute. But before we jump into that, we heard in that first clip a couple of points that are really important for us to remember as we move forward in this fight. One, you heard them say because cleaning contractors and their employees could be replaced every 30 days, holding elections under the NLRA would be ineffective, right? They said that in the video, right? We know that's the case because we know if we don't stop fighting, the building owners take us for granted and they can fire our contractors and replace them with some other non-union contractor at any moment, right? Because we work for contractors who work for property managers who work for building owners. And we need strategies that bring those building owners to the table even though they are not our employees, right? Even though they are not our employers. That's what workers learned with Rich in 1985 in Pittsburgh, right? That's what we started to learn here, because when the building industry started to change to try to maximize their profits by turning buildings not into just places that people went to work, but into commodities themselves that were financialized, they started to look for every single possible way to lower costs. And one of the first things they did was begin to fire all of the janitors who worked directly for the owning companies and replace them with contractors. The union, the workers could have just said, okay, well, we'll have to look for other jobs in other industries. But they didn't do that. They figured out a way to adapt, to continue to fight, to continue to rebuild the union, and built what we now have today. Yes. The other point that was made was that the link between union density and income inequality. They said between 1964 and 1984, union density in the building services industry dropped from 40% to 10%. And in some cities, wages fell by half, literally by half, right? Well, that's happening all across America, in literally every single industry. This graph, you don't really have to look at it too closely because it's pretty obvious just to see what the shape of it is. The blue line is the share of all income in America going to the top 10%, the richest people in the country. And the red line is the share of workers, the percentage of workers that's in a union from 1925 to the present. And you can see, as more workers are in unions, we get more of the money, right? The share of income going to the top 10% goes down. Over the last 40 years, over the same period that we have rebuilt unions in the property services industry, union density on the whole has gone down, and we have seen this runaway income inequality where the rich just keep getting richer and richer and richer and leaving all the rest of us behind. And that ain't right, is it? No! But it also clearly does not have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way because we know that from our history and we know that from our own experience as we have fought together and reclaimed the share of the profits that we deserve in the property services industry. So we're going to move now into the next phase of the Justice for Janitors story, which took place in Los Angeles, right? So 85, Rich and his co-workers were locked out here. Then what was happening in Pittsburgh was happening all across America. And the next part of this epic historic struggle took place in Los Angeles.
With campaigns underway in 20 cities, Justice for Janitors was ready for its biggest challenge. Los Angeles, where the power structure of the city had taken advantage of a changing workforce to strip the union's master contract and reduce wages from $7.50 to $4.50 an hour with no benefits. The downtown building janitors of the City of Angels were ready for Justice for Janitors.
¿Qué queremos? ¡Justicia! ¿Cuándo? ¡Ahora! ¿Qué queremos? ¡Justicia! ¿Cuándo? ¡Ahora!
Y más respeto para todos los janitors.
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
Through public pressure, legal actions, and corporate tactics, the janitors brought building after building back under union contract. Soon the downtown office market was 70% union. Who was holding out? the biggest cleaning contractor in town, a Denmark-based corporation called International Service Systems, Inc., ISS. For more than a year, ISS carried on a vicious anti-union campaign, arresting and firing workers, committing 80 violations of federal labor law. Finally, ISS janitors working in several Century City office towers decided to lay down their mops and brooms. For the janitors of Los Angeles, this was supposed to be just another morning.
An injury to one, an injury to all, an injury
They would sing, they would march, some would go to jail. Like 100 times before, they would be aggressive, militant, but non-violent.
What do we want? What do we want?
And the media would record another chapter in what had become a classic struggle. Men and women making less than $5 an hour up against the giant multinational corporations that control the real estate and office cleaning industries in our country.
It's like all janitors. Nobody survives with the $4.25 that we make for 8 hours. We're forced to do other work during the day. It has to be this way because otherwise we won't achieve anything with $4.25. We have to pay for rent, food, bills, and help our families. That's why all janitors have 2 jobs.
Because these days' events had been cleared with the Los Angeles Police Department, the 200 striking janitors had been joined by hundreds of community supporters, among them dozens of children, labor officials, and politicians. Their destination? Century City, a glitzy office park that is home to some of the biggest television and movie companies in America. But when the marchers reached the entrance to Century City, they found themselves trapped in a movie, a very bad movie.
Why can't we march on the sidewalk? There's other people marching on the sidewalk right there. We have a legal right to march on the sidewalk, and we're going to march on the sidewalk. We're not going to block streets. We're going to march on the sidewalk. Why is that?
Twice the demonstrators tried to submit to arrest. Twice they were beaten. Then, when union organizers ordered a cautious retreat, the police moved in with a vengeance. stunned by the police attack, the marchers were barely able to scramble to sanctuary in a nearby neighborhood. 50 of them would go to jail. But more than 60 demonstrators would end up in hospitals and emergency rooms. Among them were 2 pregnant women, one of whom would miscarry.
Then one of them pushes me like this, and I fell on top of the rest, and they got up from under me. And then they started kicking me, and so I screamed in English, "Wait a minute," and I said, "Don't hit me." I was bent over. I wasn't stealing, I wasn't carrying drugs, or anything of that sort. I'm simply asking for an increase in salary. I'm not violating the law in any way. I want to survive in this country legally. I'm not robbing a bank or doing anything wrong. I'm simply asking for an increase for the work that I do. And the policeman hit me on my back and my hip, and he shoved me as though I were garbage. He hit me awful. We were marching in front, and the police came and started hitting all of us.
What do you think about all this? I think it's outrageous that when people are being killed all over the city, that the cops are beating up poor workers to defend billionaire landlords. Folks want to move back, want to try and move the bus, we don't want anybody to hurt.
Following the police riot at Century City, public outrage poured in from around the world. The mayor of Los Angeles called for a police commission investigation. SEIU Local 399 filed a $10 million damage suit against the LA Police Department. Service employees' local unions across the country confronted ISS with strike ultimatums. And in Los Angeles, dozens of union, political and community leaders turned out at Century City to announce a bigger, more powerful march. The press conference turned into a victory celebration with the announcement that ISS had agreed to the union master contract. The settlement would bring union wages and benefits to 2,500 janitors in Southern California. 2 days later, the men and women of Century City marched again, this time with more than 1,000 supporters. Their celebration sent a message that the struggle for justice continues, and that the struggle can be won wherever there are workers willing to stand and proclaim, "Yes, we can. Yes, we can."
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. The union makes us strong.
That will make you get real quiet on it. Because when I was sitting there, the other day, I had an opportunity to sit down and watch this video. I'm old enough to remember some of the times my mom was on the picket line and they would talk about situations being spit on. Cars almost running you over because your employer was trying to get into the building. But they'd always go back to fight for better wages. So I could be sitting up here with you and telling you a success story of what a union can do. You know, Paul made a statement the other day. He said, just some ordinary folks getting sick and tired of what's going on around them. And he said it's time to fight, to stand up for something. Paul, could you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's give him a hand, Paul.
Again, I'm Paul Griffin. I'm about 4 months shy of 37 years.
Woo! Good man, good man.
And people often say, well, you've seen a lot in your time. But a lot of differences, a lot of changes. Of course I have, but I've also seen some things that have swelled my heart with pride, especially incidents of people being put down, people being trying to be shoved aside. But the spirit of people, just because they're united, just because they want a better life for themselves and for their families, they have that spirit to keep going, to keep fighting. And it's that spirit is why we have the industry we do today. That's why we have the jobs we do today. And there's a parallel here, because years from now, people are going to judge us on what we did or didn't do at this point in time. Because what we do now is going to determine a lot of components in the future.
Paul, I have a question for you. There's a passion that you have that the union affords you to have. And is that healthcare?
Absolutely.
Can you
yes.
tell me about your healthcare situation and challenges, please?
Well, certainly, as in a lot of people that get into their mature years, I've had some challenges over these last years. Cardiac challenges, the incidence of cancer. But thanks to the Lord's healing hand and access to good health care, I can stand here today and call myself a cancer survivor. I've been free of that.
The thing about it is, if we have an opportunity with a union that can afford you, there's so many stories and situations that we've probably all faced along the way based on health care. My last 30 years in corporate America, I was always worried about health care. Would it be there for me? Would I have enough to do what I have to do? So when I hear stories such as Paul, there, God, right on time, being there for you, the union. That's why I can scream out, 32? BK! 32? BK! And when we fight? BK! That's what I'm talking about.
And I have nothing but appreciation for Rich and the brave souls back in '85.
Come on.
Because as I say,
come on.
If not for their determination,
come on.
We wouldn't be here today.
Come on. All right. Thank you very much, Paul. Did you want to say anything else, Paul? I mean, it's your floor.
Well, there is one other thing, and that would be about people never have to feel that they have to accept the status quo. I mean, we've seen from these clips that groups of people, if they're drawn together by the same priorities and by the same commitments, you can achieve anything. Even if it's against the high and mighty, the bigger corporations. And that goes particularly for people voting. There's no bigger voice you're ever going to have than when you go in that booth and vote.
That's right.
Come on.
And especially to vote for the people who stand for ourselves. If you're one of these ones, you're sick and tired, well, that's the way to do it, and not with 20-some% turnout. I mean, you need several cycles where you get like a 60-70% turnout. Right. Then you would really shake things up. And we would get representatives the caliber we have here this morning.
All right.
Thank you very much, Paul. Pass the mic Marquise, please. I have a quick question.
Yes.
Marquise, watching this video, I know how I felt. I felt some kind of way. The group in the 90s were fighters. This book speaks for itself. But the fact that you got beat down and turned away from your rights just to walk on the sidewalk, just the right to give your opinion on what you want, what you need, and then you get beat down, and then you go back and get some more, the consequences of a celebration is depicted when you see that. They were laughing and joking, singing our chants in the beginning, but then they was ready for war. War, not in the sense of coming with any guns. Like I said, she wasn't robbing, she wasn't destroying anything, but she was standing up for those that couldn't stand up anymore and take it. It was time for a change. What do you think about the union, Marquise? Or the video? Or what do you feel?
Well, I have a little, it's not a bedtime story, but I have a story how I got involved with the union. I was working for this, I was in the food service industry for over 20 years. And I was working for this particular company for 4 years. And I was making $9.83 an hour for 4 years. So one day, my general manager brought me in the office. He said, Marquise, I got good news. I like, what is it? He said, you're due for a raise.
Oh, well, okay.
I like, well, how much I'm getting raised? He said 25 cents.
Whoa. Wait, say that again. How much?
I mean, I dedicated my whole life to this company. Came in on time, I mean, busted my ass, stayed late, did extra stuff that wasn't even on my job roster. To get 25 cent raise, it was appalling. It was appalling. So, but I did what my father did. He worked for Pitt for 30 years. So I filled out an application through Pitt, but CMU called me first.
Oh, okay.
So I got with them.
Pitt messed out, in other words, huh?
Yeah, I met Pete. Pete told me about 32 BJ. I've been hands-on with. Pete been hands-on with me. Took me out to do door-to-door, do canvassing and all that. Showed me the meats and potatoes about the union, and now I'm here and I'm dedicated to this union. To the best of my ability.
Just give him a hand. That's a beautiful story. You can tell when someone started out on the journey. Because there's almost like a greenness or softness to it. But I'm here today. I'm trying to be so reserved today because I'm on a panel of superstars. This young man here, young lady, and superstars. But the fight, what we seen on television, we see on the video, what we see around us in the workplace, we're going to have to fight this time. We're not going to be able to sit back and just rake it in. We're going to have to get uncomfortable. We're going to get sick and tired of being sick and tired and make some change. That's what this meeting's about. I have our next member, Luana, did I say your name right, Luana? Luana. And she wants to tell you her story and what she feels about the video from a different perspective.
The video, I just felt, what came to me was the violence first. You know, that was the first thing that struck me. And then after the violence, what was even more powerful was how everyone, as one, stood up and fought. Yeah. They joined together and they fought, and they hung in there until they were able to get what they wanted.
That's good.
Yeah, so that was inspiration for me.
The whole thing about inspiration, it comes from different places and different times. Now, the biggest thing, and what I had to learn about the union, I was, like yourself, in corporate America for several years, well, 30 years to be exact. And every day worrying. But I was willing to give it all for that corporation. Like Marquise was stating that, I went to work and I tried to better myself and move up the ladder of success, which is financial rewards. And 25 cents, come on now. But when you're walking hand in hand and brother to brother and sister to sister, walking down the streets here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, making some noise about 32 BJ, change can happen. Who believes in change? Raise your hand. I believe in change. Change can happen when you come together and when you fight. The whole idea of what I see on this panel is from he started the flicker of the flame. And then we start raising the flame a little higher. And now we have flame holders and carriers. Those who's going to keep the fight going for us. But then I can't forget my brother down here. Brother Tom? I just want to hear your story and what you think about what's going on today and where we're going in the future.
My name is Tommy Magana. I've been a janitor since 1977. I started at 17 out of Northway Mall. They were union. But then after a few years, I came to downtown Pittsburgh, office cleaning, and so I actually stripped the wax floors in the 80s. But became a union member, Local 29 back then. And it just breaks my heart. I can't get over this baby lost a life.
Yes.
Just asking to be able to live
Yes.
decent.
That's
A baby actually was denied life. It was murdered. And that breaks my heart. There's 5 people, our members, that gave up their lives for this struggle. And it's a shame that people have to die just to live comfortable and have health care. It's unbelievable here in America.
Unbelievable.
And I don't know, it just breaks my heart. It tears me up. I don't know. I just know the struggles are there. They're real. I have a 15-year-old daughter, believe it or not. and I worry about it. I work 6-7 days a week just to make ends meet. When the overtime dries up, I'm gonna have to get a second job like I used to be, a roofer and a janitor at night. Here I am. We went full circle back to pre-85 to where a janitor has to work 2 jobs. And where's my time for my daughter? I will have none. I'll be back to 4 hours sleep.
Wow, what a point. The whole reflection of that statement is that we're going backwards. Let's give them a hand. If you can see up in this panel, there's a lot of passion up here for where we're at now, where we're going. I was talking to Sam the other day, and we were reflecting on how it's going to be different strategies, different ways to go to make things change, and how we go about it. But it's a big picture now. I know we're here for health care, financial rewards, which is money. I know retirements are important to us. But you know what? We have to learn now, with our power that we have as 32 BJ, is now to encompass the whole situation. And what is that situation, panel? It's called downtown Pittsburgh needing help. To hear not only our voices, but our action to go behind it. I mean, if you work downtown, you probably have some crazy stories about vagrants coming into the buildings. You're cleaning up behind them. Wonder if they're going to snap out with you. There's drug situations, there's mental situations. There's all kind of this nastiness going on. I was talking to a security guard one day, and I said, ma'am, and she was an elderly young lady. I'm not going to say her age because she's in the room. But she's telling me, she said, Jeff, we're living in evil times. Evil times. Now, this video, if you looked at the dates, we had 85 for Rich. Some people wasn't even born yet. But now, then we have in the 90s, and see how we got pushed back. And now we're 2023 and getting ready to have to fight again. It's crazy what we're going through. And yes, we're living some evil times. But who's willing to fight not only for your jobs, but the building of the jobs? Who's willing to fight? Raise your hand. Who's willing to stand together? Raise your hand. I need one thing for this panel today. Would you stand up, give them a round of applause, please? Would you please recognize all the panel members? Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Marquise, Luana, Rich. Look, if we had maybe an entire Point Park University class on this stuff, we could learn about what happened after Los Angeles. We could learn about in reorganizing Washington, D.C., they had the Days of Rage and they shut down the 14th Street Bridge. We could learn about hunger strikers in Miami. When they organized the University of Miami, workers went on hunger strike in order to win. But we don't have all day, unfortunately. So you gotta take my word for it that those things happen. We do know, though, that we got a lot at stake this year. And I know that Pittsburgh members will lead that fight, will you not? Yes! And part of the reason I know that is because you guys have done that over and over and over again. Every single time our backs have been up against the wall, we've stood up and we've fought back. And we have the final clip of the day, which is from just 4 years ago. Here we go. The last time we were in this same contract fight.
New at noon, hundreds of members of the Local Services Employees International Union took to Pittsburgh streets demanding fairness when it comes to their contract, which expires soon. Amy Wattis has more from downtown.
SEIU 32BJ union workers started their march down 4th Avenue, chanting and holding up signs that said "All in to win" and "Good jobs, strong communities," demanding more money, their benefits be protected, and retirement security. Sheldon Harris was among the hundreds of marchers who took to the streets. He works for Cushman & Wakefield and is a cleaner at the U.S. Steel Tower.
We want to see fairness. We want to get compensated for the work we have to give because this work isn't easy. A lot of us is breaking down from the stuff that we already started doing for them.
The march ended in front of the U.S. Steel Tower because union workers say Cushman & Wakefield cut staff.
They came in trying to undercut the old company now they're downsizing us and putting on a bigger workload for everybody.
Sharon Gray Thomas works for ISS and cleans at the PNC Tower.
What we're making and what we're doing for these companies is not worth what we're getting.
All of these union workers clean at various buildings across the city of Pittsburgh, including here at the U.S. Steel Tower. And they say if they don't get a new contract by October 31st, they're going to shut it down.
Our members will be going to the bargaining table to protect their benefits, their retirement security, to raise wages, and to be able to share in the prosperity that we are seeing generated all across this region.
At the end of the march, some dignitaries came to speak, including Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman.
I'm here to bring the weight of my office, but also the weight of the governor's office, my partner, Governor Tom Wolf. And both he and I are stewards and guardians of the union way of life here in Pennsylvania.
KDKA reached out to a few of the cleaning companies these union members work for, and we're either waiting for a call back or they have no comment. Amy Wattis, KDKA News.
All right, you guys ready to march again like we did 4 years ago? Are we ready to fight again like we did 4 years ago? Are you ready to win wage increases for Tommy and his 15-year-old daughter and your family? You ready to protect your health benefits for Paul and a whole lot of cancer survivors out there and your family? You ready to expand retirement security so that we have pensions all across the city, not just in downtown? Are you ready to win Juneteenth as a paid holiday? And paid time off for election day so we can engage in the civics of this great country? That's what this fight is about. That's what this struggle is about. It's going to be harder than ever, but I know you're up for the task. I know we're up for this fight. So before we close out by talking about next steps, I want you all to give one more round of applause to all of the elected officials who came out to support us and learn with us today. Thank you so much. Stand up, those of you who are still here. And I want to recognize that we were also joined by some members from SEIU Healthcare PA and SEIU 668. By Barney Allerslow, who's been in these struggles with us for decades now, from the Mon Valley Unemployed Committee, and from our allies at Unite Here, the Hotel Workers Union, whose members, hundreds of them across downtown, are also in the same struggle as we are to make sure that we can win good jobs and a livable city for every single person in Pittsburgh. So are you ready to hear about what comes next? Yeah! All right. We gotta make sure that we re-envision downtown so that the community that we work in can continue to thrive, right? So that we don't have to deal with the kinds of stuff that members are dealing with on a nightly basis downtown. So we gotta advocate for investments that will help downtown recover and thrive in a post-COVID environment. So we will be having some meetings with council members. We're already talking with a bunch of council members, so we're going to continue to meet with council members. And we're going to be asking members to lend their voices to that fight by joining us at City Council probably sometime in late July. So your strike captains, your bargaining committee, your field reps will be coming to you with that date. When we start negotiations, the first session will be open to all members. So we want to make sure that we're turning out hundreds of members so that the contractors see their faces, hear their chants, and understand that the 12 people sitting on the bargaining committee aren't just 12 powerful voices, but that they represent hundreds of workers who are ready to fight for what we deserve. You with me? Yeah. All right, so fill out the bargaining survey, come out in July, then come out again in August. Take these stories back to your coworkers. Make sure that you spread the word about the struggles that have come before us, how we're going to get creative, just as the workers who came before us got creative to adapt to changes in the economy, to adapt to changes in the industry, and continue to fight and win. We're going to do the same thing this year. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep winning. Thank you so much for coming out.